Got a lot of socks here. I don't know why my stuff becomes the dumping ground of like castaway. I'm like Misfit Island. My office is
But
my
for socks.
space. Anything. No, there's random stuff thrown into my office. Random clothes, random socks, random toys, Easter egg stuff.
So I don't know if it's isolated to you. It could potentially be something with the house because the same thing happens to me, to my desk and the garage.
The garage for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Anything that's left laying around the house.
It's like a portal of memories. It's like, I'm going to open the door. I'm going to set this right at the bottom of the steps, and then it doesn't exist anymore to three quarters of this house.
Yes, I did dump a bunch of stuff in.
It's not just you. You did yesterday, but it's not just you.
Yesterday because it was all at the front door, but the front door needs to be feng shui, man.
Yeah,
it's your space.
It's honestly, it's like that prison in the Marvel universe that they open up a portal to and send all the bad things. That's what the garage is. You just open the portal and just throw all the bad things in it, and they don't exist. Until I try and go through, and then some smartass is like, the garage is looking pretty cluttered, hey? Mm-hmm. Like if anyone ever sees me on the news because I've lost it and potentially done harm to many other people, start with the garage. Don't even interview people. Just go back to our house, open the garage door, and go, yeah, I see what set them off. That's what's going to happen. 100%. Our next house, I don't want a garage. I would rather freeze every morning starting my vehicles.
Well, if it was tidy, maybe stuff wouldn't get dropped in there.
No, actually, that is inaccurate because it has been tidy and it all just gets dropped at the bottom of the steps.
Maybe if it was tidy enough so that there's room for cars to be parked in there.
That's a great secondary one. No, because then people just pile stuff on top of the cars.
That's not true.
At 100, bro. As a person that can travel between the two dimensions, 100% true.
As someone who has never seen a car in there in 3 or 4 years, I don't think that's.
Do you know why there wasn't one in there last year?
Why?
Think of what was in there last year.
Well, it doesn't matter.
What was in there?
Or side by side.
Yes, exactly.
What happened? We did have a side by side the previous 3 or 4 years.
And it was in there for the winter time. I'm deliberately not even going to worry about cars. I don't even care. That's a big closet, apparently. It doesn't take cars. It takes 50 million different things but cars.
It's like Monica's lost closet.
It's like if The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe was based on a portal to hell. That's what it's like. There's no Turkish delight on the other side of the door. What's today's episode about? Housekeeping and how it
No. I was gonna say welcome back. I wasn't even gonna start with that. I was just gonna say welcome back, but then I was thinking it's not you welcome back, it's me welcome back. I haven't been home in a month.
Yeah, it's kind of a layover. You're gone again in a couple weeks.
I know. I thought the fall was gonna be nice and chill.
Which fall?
This fall.
Because I kind of let you know a little secret.
What?
You've been saying something similar to that for at least 15 years. At least. I'm just going to get through the next few weeks and then it'll be fine. And then a few weeks later, it's like, how are things going? And your hair is more on fire than it was previous.
Yeah.
Not just you. This summer's been.
This was long. Yeah. So I think I'm allowed to talk about it now. I didn't before. But in case people, 3 listeners who are hanging on the edge of their seat, well, maybe just one, because the other 2 listeners are your mom and my mom, and they knew where I was. But if anyone was hanging on the edge of their seat, probably weren't, but I was gone for 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I was the consulting psychologist on the show Fear Factor, hosted by Johnny Knoxville, who was actually quite awesome.
He's a good dude.
Yeah, he's a great dude. Funny. Oh, he likes his football.
I bet.
Oh, yeah.
Great experience.
Yeah, it's good to see people through their fears, right? Like, I'm like, this is my job to the extreme, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm pushing kids and teens and even parents out of their comfort zone all of the time. And this was definitely that. So, I don't know when it'll air, but that's what I was doing. I was never on TV.
Could have been.
Well, maybe, but I usually was freezing. So I usually, if you see someone walk on with a black jacket and a hood up, that was me. So today I have a special guest, Todd Sarner. He's a parenting coach and psychotherapist with over 20 years of experience helping families turn daily power struggles and emotional chaos into connection, calm, and cooperation at home. His work is grounded in attachment science and practical psychology with a focus on giving parents real-world tools that actually work, especially when emotions are high and patience is low. And he was an original intern of renowned developmental Canadian psychologist, Dr. Gordon Neufeld, who is awesome, and later served as a faculty member of the Neufeld Institute, where he trained professionals in attachment-based approaches to parenting. And I'm sure, I love Neufeld's, and I talk about him a lot, so I'm sure a lot of what Todd has to say is going to be in line with probably things that we talk about a lot too.
Probably.
Hope you enjoy. Todd, thanks so much for joining us on the show today.
So glad to be here.
Why don't you start off by introducing yourself to everyone who's listening?
Okay, yeah. I was not sure how to do that, but my name is Todd Sarner. I'm trained as a marriage and family therapist, licensed in California, and I kind of wear two main hats. On the one hand, I'm a parenting coach. I've been doing that about 22 years now, since about the time my son was born. And I started a coaching practice before I was even licensed called Transformative Parenting. And I'm just passionate about how to help kids grow into their greatest potential, whatever their particular unique potential is, and supporting parents to be able to be the answer for their kids and to give them that support. And then also in a related way, I use my license mostly to do couples counseling for parents. I only see parents, and it's just part of the overall mission of supporting kids in their experience by helping support their parents' relationship. Because it just became obvious to me at some point. I've worked with a couple. You guys are in Alberta, right?
We are,
yeah.
A couple of the most influential people in my life are Canadians. Dr. Gordon Neufeld was kind of my mentor. When I was becoming a parent, I found his work and was just completely drawn to it. And he invited me to be one of the first interns in his professional training program. And then I went on to work with his, was faculty for his institute for a while. And then after a few years of like, no, it's about the parenting, and we have to, I was introduced to the work of Sue Johnson, and emotionally focused therapy. And it just became obvious to me, help the parents here and help the kids by helping the parents here too. So that's mostly what I do. Psychotherapy, mostly couples counseling. And then also my passion is parent coaching.
Amazing. And I love Gordon Neufeld's work too. Hold On to Your Kids was like one of the first books that we read as parents. So
I got the Canadian edition before it was available in the US, and it was my son's mother poking me to get it. And I already had a stack next to my bed, of like books to read. And we had gone to grad school together, and we both had worked with kids and had experience, but both had the same experience of like, but what the hell am I supposed to do? Like, we're trained. We've done this stuff. I took developmental classes, I wanted to work with kids at first. But I felt Dr. Neufeld's work really helped connect all the dots for me. He didn't come up with a whole bunch of new things. He just put them together in a way that really made sense to me. And it made the job of like being a parent make sense to me. And so I started enthusiastically writing to him, and he's like, come on, come train with me. And it really changed my trajectory professionally, but more importantly as a human and a dad, as a parent. So love his work. And I've heard you talk about connect before you direct, which again is not a wholly original concept to him, but he really focuses on that a lot. He says collect before you direct.
Yeah. We always collect our kids.
Yes.
Maya, even if they've just gone to the bathroom for 5 seconds, whenever they walk back into the room, Maya. Yeah, I do that.
Big fans.
Mom,
The
stop.
kids that's exactly the response. Yeah.
They're so annoying. Yeah. Yeah. So one of the things that we had just chatted about right before we started recording was just setting up the environment. I wonder if that's where we start, just to be successful parents with kids who are, emotionally well adapted and or where
Yeah,
do you think we should
hopefully.
start?
Yeah, I kind of, as much as I'm a therapist, kind of right brain type in a lot of ways, I appreciate the structure um, of certain things to explain things. And the way I do my process with my clients and the way that I formulate answers to these questions is that there's three different phases involved. And it just makes sense to me this way, that the first most important phase of building out an environment that works, a culture of kind of more proactive parenting, is to take the lead in the realm of attachment and connection, right? That's the foundation. It's true in parenting and it's true in marriage, right? People come to me all the time for couples counseling, and they almost always have, do you do much couples counseling in your practice?
I used to. I don't as
Yeah.
much anymore.
I
I
know you
really
concentrate
focus
right
on
with teens and
parenting. Well, and
yeah, and
parenting,
parenting.
yeah, is
Yeah.
the bigger focus.
So you know then, like, people come to you with the same kind of list every time in couples work. It's like, we're not communicating, intimacy's not there right now. That I feel like she's just criticizing me. He's not really supporting me, right? They almost always have the same list of things. From an attachment perspective, Sue Johnson's work, Stan Tatkin's work, it's those are symptoms of an underlying problem. And the underlying problem is the bond is probably drifted. Does that make sense the way I'm saying it?
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
the connection that you were feeling that made everything else work has maybe drifted because of kids and life and stress and childhood origin issues that come up, right? But then those symptoms happen. It's the same in the parenting realm, that we say, look, a lot of the problems are for lack of connection. And hey, most of the people who come to me are good parents. They're trying their best, but they might not understand some of the nuances of separation anxiety, sensitivity in one of their children versus another one of their children, how to help them feel connected to others when they're apart. So the way I think about it is the first and foremost things like collect before you direct, is don't assume connection, because your kids love you. The bond, the attachment bond, as you guys know, is deep and deeply rooted and complex. But that doesn't mean you take for granted the connection with your child. Because if they're connected to something else, especially if they're young, especially if they're sensitive, their attention's elsewhere. It's not trained on you, and you have to go and get it, right? But then also, what are their deeper needs? And where are the places where they're getting anxiety about separation and managing that, which is a lot about what attachment science is. We have to create an environment where we collect first, where we address the underlying needs, where we address the separation issues. Then we move into the second phase, which is more environmental and regulation, is how I call it. How are we keeping, I love when I've heard you talk about the importance of play, maybe lessening screens, downtime, things like this. My good friend and colleague, Kim John Payne, talks about that a lot in Simplicity Parenting, and Soul of Discipline, that we have structure, we have predictability, that we have rhythm. And I also put into that realm consequences, that consequences aren't punishing. Consequences are the day-to-day teaching of cause and effect to children. That is one of the most effective ways of guiding behavior in a good way. Does that make sense the way I'm saying it? But I put it in that realm, not in the discipline realm, because I think it needs to be distinguished from that. This is your day-to-day teaching. This is their day-to-day disciple, being a good leader, is teach cause and effect of actions in a non-punishing, non-shaming way. And so I put it in that realm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been doing a fair amount of that lately.
Oh yes. And I made the mistake of being like, natural consequences, kid. She's like, this is not natural because you wouldn't have to impose it on me, mother. She's like, this is a logical consequence.
I
I'm
I
like, okay,
try to
yeah.
I try to steer away from any buzzwords, or natural
Yeah.
sounds like a good thing, right? Natural consequences sound logical consequences, but it's been kind of bastardized sometimes to not really have meaning. So we can go into that a little bit more. But then in the third realm, it's discipline and behavior. It's, hey, behavior stuff is not usually your kid waking up deciding they just want to mess with you. Behavior stuff is usually an indication of dysregulation in your child, or they don't know how to do something yet. It's like one of the main things. I just don't know how to do it yet, right? And then we can respond in our frustration. You should know, and it's like, no, they kind of don't. They don't know how to use their words here. They don't know how to manage what's going on right now. And it usually is a completely logical manifestation of their age and their stage and their sensitivity and what's going on around them. So let's figure out ways to respond to that are relationship friendly and that actually guide in the right direction and aren't just an expression of my frustration right now in the moment. And we all have those moments, obviously, but let's minimize that if we can and make it more about guiding them back. So that's kind of my big picture. I don't know how interesting it is just to outline it that way, but that's the environment I'm trying to create. And then if I'm working on the connection and I'm working on the environment and the teaching of day-to-day consequences, I find that third realm, and this is what my clients usually come to me and say, hey, we haven't got to discipline yet, but I'm just noticing it's not as much of a problem. And my response in a very compassionate way is, duh. Uh, like, yeah, of course, because you've kind of got more in alignment with your relationship and you're doing more to kind of hold the right container. Yeah, of course, that's going to be less, right? And
Yeah.
so then we can go into any granular details about any of that stuff. But that's kind of the big picture for me. That's what I try to teach, is I kind of lead people through those things.
Well, it is being proactive. I remember actually once when our kids were much younger, parents being like, how do you discipline, or no, how do you punish your kids? I'm like, I don't,
I
pardon?
don't.
Like, I don't. What do you mean you don't? Well, what do you do if they're bad? And but being proactive, we just never get to that place.
No, I say over and over again, discipline and parenting does not mean what you do to your kid when they do something you don't like to make them stop it. Like, besides the fact that it doesn't feel like right to me, doesn't like feel ethical, it's just not practical. It doesn't work. I mean, you can take things away from your kid and raise your voice a little bit more when they're younger, and sometimes you'll get a compliance, but that's usually out of like alarm or fear. And I haven't met parents that don't notice that it stops working,
Yep.
That, and then you lose that connection with your kid, and you lose that kind of, Neufeld talks a lot about the power to parent. That's what his courses were called. I used to teach them in the early days. Like I'd play his video and then facilitate conversation. And sometimes power is like a dirty word, or people take it, but what he meant was natural authority, that you're a mama bear, you're a papa bear, you're a natural, leading energy, and that doesn't require punishment, and how would you feel, if somebody punished you every time you messed up? If hypothetically, if your husband came home from the store and didn't bring back the right jam that you asked.
That would never happen in our house.
That would never
Ever.
happen.
Ever.
I use that example, right? Because I was told, go get, we have Whole Foods down here. I think you have it up there now. But I would just sit there like the dumbest person alive, staring at the jam. Like, organic, non-sugar, natural, 15,000 flavors, right? Yep. And I would often grab the wrong one, right? So autobiographical. But what if every time that happened, just go to an extreme to be funny, but you said, you know what? You lose all bedroom privileges. You cannot be in my realm. You go sleep on the couch. The first time or two, that would be like, oh no, I messed up. I don't want, right? But what would happen if you kept doing that? Like really, what what would
Just
naturally a person
put the wrong jam on the counter and hunker down on the couch without the conversation.
You.
right?
And I see it all the time, like where
Yeah.
it's anxiety to screw you. Like, take my phone away. What are you going to do? Right.
Right, yeah.
Out.
Neufeld describes that in developmental psychology. We just call defensive detachment.
Yeah.
That the natural instinct when people are coupled, the natural instinct when you're my mother, you're my father, is to attach to you and to want to attach to you. If you and I are best friends and you call me up and just say, "Hey, Todd, I'm really sorry. I can't believe I'm asking you this, but can you please come and help me? I need your help." If you're my best friend, what do I say? Yes, of course.
Yeah.
I'll be right there. It's my instinct. If you tried to leverage me by saying, "You know what, Todd, and if you don't come, I won't be your friend anymore." Ooh, now you've broken the rules. Okay? You're not supposed to say that. My instinct is like to be mad at you now. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Because my instinct is to attach to you. You don't need to leverage me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the same process that happens in kids. So when that instinct to attach is frustrated, when it causes me pain, when it causes me too much frustration, my brain naturally says, stop it. Stop caring. It's a secondary thing, right? It's not true that they don't love you. It's not true that they don't want to attach to you. It's true that they're so frustrated by trying to have proximity to you, to be close to you, that they're going to act like they don't. I don't care. Whatever. Go ahead. You want to send me to my room for half an hour? Send me to my room for an hour. I don't care. And boy, that's frustrating. That's so hard. You feel so, powerless as a parent. Like when you get to that place, it just feels bad when your kid has the I don't care whatever kind of stance. Doesn't feel good any more than it would in your partner, right? I'm sure you guys have never seen that. I'm just saying.
Never, no.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I was just thinking back to the discipline component of the conversation, and it's I think it's an important distinction for parents to realize that discipline can have two meanings, right? And in a parenting sense, a lot of times discipline is about the outcome, when really they need to apply discipline to the process, right? So turn the discipline back on yourself and take the steps necessary ahead of time is what we're essentially saying. You can still refer to discipline, but it's the discipline of your actions as opposed to the disciplines put upon your child's actions, if that makes sense, right? Like
Sure.
if you can make that shift, does that make sense?
Like us being disciplined to be proactive.
Yeah. It's
right.
It's trying to shift that definition for the parents.
If we're being honest with ourselves, and I don't believe in judging parents or shaming, all of that stuff, right? It's not helpful. But if we're being honest with ourselves, it's us losing discipline ourselves because I'm frustrated with my wife. I'm frustrated with my boss. I'm frustrated with how my day's going, right? I say it all the time. Like you have a great day and you get a good night's sleep and your partner is just loving you that morning and just, I'm so glad to see you. And then you go to work and everything just lines up. I'm the best therapist in the world today. I just helped those people. And some kind of financial windfall happens and you come home and your kid acts this way. And how do you behave? Right?
Yeah.
Versus you had a bad day and you didn't get sleep and things didn't go right, and then your kid does the exact same thing. How do you behave?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What's the variable there? It's not your kid. Your kid's just having a hard time usually. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't have to follow through with consequences. If I promised you that if you yell in the car, I'm going to pull it over, I'm not going to yell. It might mean that we have less time at the park because we had to pull over because it wasn't safe. I will follow through with that. I'm not punishing you. I promised you that if you were yelling in the car, I was going to pull over because I don't feel like it's safe. That's not punishment. And if I'm full of foul frustration and I'm frustrated, right, and I'm poking and I'm being like kind of with my parents or my sibling, you might need to be contained. And what I mean by that is you might need me to engage with you in a way that helps you feel those feelings and process them and get them out. And that's going to look like me being very firm with you while trying to stay empathetic with you. And I'm not going to just try to make you happy. I'm going to help you feel those feelings. Now, is that punishment, or is that me helping you and helping you just kind of process what you need to and become an adaptive, resilient human being? Sure, do that. Because too often people take this message of connection first and everything as the whole gentle parenting debate, right? Or all this stuff. I'm like, duh, like, versus what, right? But that doesn't mean you can't hold boundaries. That doesn't mean you can't say no. All these things. Don't even get me started on F around and find out parenting. It just, people keep swinging back and forth between these extremes. No, it just makes sense. Like a middle path parenting is lead with connection, build a good environment, and then yes, say no when you need to say no. And yes, let consequences happen, but that's not ungentle.
And be
That's
accountable. And
helping.
be accountable as part of that, right? Like, you need to be
For
accountable
sure.
to what you want to do. You need to hold your kids accountable, because even consequences is there. Yeah, there's natural luck, but if you're upfront and honest and you're talking about expectations and, to your point, what's going to happen should this event occur, it's not even necessarily a consequence. Sometimes it's like, hey, we're holding each other accountable. I said this is going to happen. You said you understood. Now we're at this point, right? Because then it
For sure.
removes an additional layer of that punitive piece when you're positioning it that way.
Because it's not fair when we get emotionally distressed and then we're like, that's it, give me your phone, right? It's not fair to kids because now, like, we are reacting based on our own emotion, right? So,
right. And we're usually acting on a kind of a unconscious attachment instinct. We take away whatever they're attached to, right?
Yes.
Whether it has anything to do with what they're doing or not, we just kind of instinctually know I have the most power with taking away whatever they care about the most right now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And they shouldn't be attached to their phone. I think we probably have similar attitudes about screens from what I've heard you say on your podcast. I don't think they're necessary. My kid went to a Waldorf school where they kind of followed along with what I've heard you say. Nobody had a smartphone until high school, and even then they weren't allowed in the right. But I would just say I'm losing my thread a little bit because there's so many things coming up. But I would say, yeah, accountability, but the missing piece is often empathy, right?
Yeah.
Just remember the empathy piece.
Yeah.
Right. And that's almost all boundaries. Like, say what you need to say, be clear, follow through, but have empathy for what the person's going through right now and make sure they remember that you love them. And I'm not doing this because... But when we take away instinctively whatever they care about the most, we're going back to that defensive detachment thing. We're teaching them not to care about what they care about.
Yeah.
Okay. Even if it's a phone, even if right now that, I'm teaching them don't care about what you care about. And that again goes down that path that's not really helpful.
I think it might be because in my mind, it's all very clear. And I think we're on the very same page. But for parents who are listening, they might not be. So let's maybe have an example of a kid. I don't know. What would like a problematic? I always go to the teenage things, right? Where
well, even just maybe, so you're talking about a behavior from a kid?
Yeah, like we'll just kind of have like a little case example and then we can quickly walk through like what that would look like at each of those
things. Kid not listening, kid not doing their homework, sibling stuff, whatever, all the common stuff that we hear all the time.
Or, yeah, like
even perhaps it's just a kid not being honest. Let's because that's an interesting one in terms of a kid, because we've had that too, where we've had conversations about be honest and open with us. Is that what you're thinking about? Or
I mean, we can make it about, so they come home and they say they did their chores. They say they did their homework.
But they didn't.
But they didn't. And so now parents come home, they're stressed, and then they're fighting about you lied. You got to go do this thing. I'm taking away the screen because you were on the iPad or whatever after school. I think that's a pretty common sort of.
Sure. Let me see if let's work this through together and make sure we're on the same track with this. I guess it's a good example of the accountability plus empathy thing. is I don't need to shame you to hold you accountable, right? I don't need to label you a liar. Okay. It's not that I don't want to encourage honesty. I do, but I kind of start from the place, empathetic therapist place, empathetic human being place of people have reasons for what they do, you know, and I don't have to accept the reasons. I can expect accountability, but I assume something's going on with you that is causing you to not tell me the truth right now or not do it, right? So I can go, look, again, this is where I want to make sure we're on the same page. I can say, hey, you know the rules, you know what we do around here. We do what we have to do before we do optional things, right? And our agreement is that we do our chores and we do our homework before we do anything else. I don't know what's going on. If you want to talk to me about what might be happening today, how you're feeling, I'm totally here for you, okay? I will listen. But we're not going to do optional things like playing or doing on these optional things until you get done what you're going to do. And that's not going to change. So take as much time as you want, but we're not going to do until it changes. And then if you want to come talk to me about what might, like, right? Does that make sense? I'm going for the vibe rather than an actual script. But I'm staying firm, I'm staying locked in, and I'm really, shame is such, I did trainings with Dr. Rebecca Jorgensen, who's one of Sue Johnson's kind of faculty main students. She's up in Canada as well, or she's in the Midwest somewhere. But she did a whole workshop on shame and what an insidious emotion it is and how to work with it clinically, right? I don't want to do anything that elicits shame in my child. Okay. And so that kind of languaging about, hey, this is just how we do things. This is what our family does. I make it a we instead of making it a you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And some people will have a problem with that. And you're not encouraging accountability. No, I think I am. You know, I'm leaning on the attachment principle of belonging and loyalty and the we. You know, hey, that's not how we do things. You know how we do things around here. We do this, and then we can do that. We eat dinner, then we have a dessert.
And I think that's a key piece is you're explaining to us the steps and the natural established practices. You've already talked about this. Everybody, like, you're coming at it from a place of, we've already talked about this, right? We all understand what we're supposed to do. So really you're stepping into it going, hey, I know you know, so tell me what's happening, why this isn't working today, right? Because I think that's an important piece, and it goes back to what you said earlier in terms of, you know, building that environment, building that kind of framework with your kid and that understanding, so you don't have to not waste time, but you don't have to revisit it in the moment. It's already an understood.
Sure,
right?
I guess, yeah, I think more specifically going to what you're saying is I really learned my attitude, my process about consequences from Gordon Neufeld. And I've just kind of refined it over the years of working with a couple thousand, you know, parents and doing all the workshops and things to make it just based on what I see all the time. But I have a little, you know, set of rules that I teach people. The number one rule, and I make it number one on purpose because I found so often it was a problem. And, you know, Billy's not doing his homework, and then he does, you know, and I said, okay, well, does Billy know what the rules are about homework? Well, he should know, because it's always been, I didn't ask, and I'm not trying to make fun of my parents. I've had this conversation so many times.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, I didn't ask what you think he should know. I asked, have you really made it crystal clear what the expectation is and what a natural thing that happens or doesn't happen based on that is? Well, I don't know. Okay, let me ask you another question. Do you and your wife do it the same? Are you consistent? Is it one day we make sure they do their homework and the next day we don't because we're just, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And I'm telling over 2,000 parenting clients, just me and the couple, not to mention workshops and classes and all these things that I used to do more before COVID. I don't remember a single family where the answers were yes. Not one. I don't know
Yeah.
what your experience has been, Caroline, but
Oh no,
I don't
yeah,
remember.
it's the same.
And
Yeah.
again, it's not from a judgy place. I had to learn it too. I didn't want to say no to I didn't want to enforce consequences in my kid. I had heavy, not great, consistent consequences growing up. So I just didn't want to do it. It was a struggle for me, but I haven't met parents that were doing it that way. So we have to close those gaps first. And so what I talk about a lot, I think speaking to what you're asking is hit the reset button. And the conversation I often have when it's not going right, and I hope this is kind of in alignment with what you're asking, is I go, hey, child, I realize I haven't been very consistent, and me and mommy haven't been really consistent about how we're doing and we're getting really frustrated with you. And we don't like that. We know you don't like that, but that's on us. We're the parents. I'm not lashing myself and saying I'm awful, but I'm owning it. And boy, does that open things up sometimes. You know what I mean? Like you might get a little, yeah, you know, breathe, go, Pat. You know what I mean? But then I go, but let's just be super clear. It's so stressful to you and to us when the chores don't get done and the homework doesn't get done. And then the next day you're stressed out. That just doesn't work. Okay. It's not good. So here's what we're going to do. Every day after school, you play for half an hour. If you need to get energy out, you need to do whatever you do. That's okay. Have a little downtime. But then we do our homework and we do our chores. And then we have the extra things that you like to do, whatever those things are. But that's what we're going to do. And if you don't, you're not going to do any of these extra things. Anything that's just up. And that's not a punishment, child. That's just how it works. And then I follow through. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Other rules include don't take things away that the child cares about. Like the biggest one is like a young child, they're acting up at dinner and you take away the bedtime story. Like everybody's done that. Okay. Don't. If they need a bedtime story to downregulate and to calm down and go to sleep, don't take that away.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And then parents will often say, what if I don't have an obvious thing? Well, build something in. Make there be an extra thing we do. Hey, dinner went so great and bedtime's not for a half an hour. We have extra time. You want to play a game? Don't be obvious about it. Just build it in. And then the next night, can we curse? No, I won't curse. It's a mess at dinner. I was going to say an S show, but it's a mess at dinner and things don't go right. And you don't make it heavy. Like you can't have your game now. The kid will say, oh, can we play a game now? And you go, oh, you know what, honey? We don't have time. It's already bedtime. I'll read you your bedtime story now, but dinner didn't go great. You get the difference, right?
Yeah,
Totally.
absolutely.
And I should make what happens linked to what they did or didn't do. It can't be random. I'm just taking away your favorite thing.
Yeah.
But then we do have to follow through. So that's just kind of how I see it, you know.
And then it's easier to be empathetic when they make a choice, right? So I don't know if you've ever read Parenting with Love and Logic. They talk a lot about this, right? So I'll know you want your iPad at 7 when your homework and chores are done, but I'll know you don't want your iPad at 7. So we are just saying, I know, right? The behavioral choice you're going to make and what the outcomes are. And then when 7 comes and they haven't done it, hey, dude, thanks for letting me know you didn't want your iPad. Oh, I wanted my iPad. But now we can be empathetic, like, bummer. That wasn't the choice you wanted, right? And so we can go back to that empathetic piece, but still maintaining that boundary. That wasn't the choice you wanted. And
For
so
sure.
then they're thinking about their behavioral choice because they already knew what the expectations were.
Sure.
It's not us randomly being mean. And then tomorrow we can be like, hey, how can we help you today so that you can make the choice that you want? So
absolutely. And the one rule of consequences that I learned from Neufeld that I didn't mention in my little description there was coming through in what you're saying is consequences must be delivered in a matter-of-fact way.
Very much so. Yeah.
It's not shame. It's not anger. It's not any of that stuff. I need to stay. I'm so dating myself, and I just had a birthday, and I'm an old man, But do you remember the show Columbo?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
always think of so we're Gen Xers maybe,
We are.
but
We are.
you know, Columbo's an older show than us, but maybe it's not the perfect example, but he was just part of his power was he wasn't that cop that went at you and where were you? And, you know, he's like, so nice to meet you. You're so pleasant. Great conversation. Oh, by the way, what time did you say you were at? Oh, got it. Okay. And the person gets totally like disheveled and they don't know it because he's just being matter of fact. He's just keeping it and he's warm and he's still friendly. You know what I mean? Sometimes I say with limit setting and consequences, don't give them anything to fight with. Because the truth is, people know what the right thing is inside. Your kids kind of usually do. You know what I mean? We can talk about exceptions, but in general, when we're fighting with our partner or we're in a power struggle with our kids or whatever, we're just letting loose our frustration and they're responding to that and I'm making you feel bad and so you're responding, right? If I actually just let you feel what you're feeling, if I just let you feel what you did wasn't our agreement or whatever, does that make sense the way I'm saying it?
Yeah.
Usually there's no argument.
Yeah.
Not really. You're not fueling this, you know, back and forth unconscious thing. You're just kind of leaving it there. This is what I said and this is what happened and so this is what we do. You know, and you get a little bit of a sputter but it's not fair. But if you know it's fair because you were clear and it makes sense, the reason why, then you are being fair. But so often we're taking away things they care about, or it's not linked to what they did or didn't do. So we're going to get big it's not fairs. And they're actually right, you know?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And especially if they didn't know. So it's funny because I was just talking about Columbo. I talk about Columbo all of the time.
Do you?
Like,
okay. I knew
I'm
we were
confused. Here, help me understand this a little bit. Yeah. So collect kids. I mean, really that means put down your screen. If they enter a room, you haven't seen them all day, like take that time to look at them, acknowledge them, love them, you know, smile at them. And being proactive, establishing those expectations. And yeah, they're going to pull behaviors that we don't always know, but good time. We can set those expectations or talk later. Any other little pieces of information we haven't talked about that you think is really important to address?
Oh gosh, not immediately. I mean, we could. I'm kind of like, I love doing these podcasts because I used to do public talks all the time, and I don't do them anymore since COVID. It just hasn't been happening, and so I love having the opportunity to talk to other people about these things, besides clients. And I could go on for hours and hours and hours, but there's not necessarily a thing popping into my head. I mean, if you have any other scenarios that are occurring to you, things that you hear a lot from listeners, or questions you have related to this.
I think those are the common ones. I mean, the big ones that the common everyday struggles are getting out to school in the mornings, coming home, right, doing homework and chores, and then the bedtime. Those are usually the big three everyday sorts of things. The kids I see are usually a little bit more extreme.
I guess where I would loop back to then, based on those examples, is what Neufeld calls bridging. And that's what I was talking about more at the beginning. A lot of times what we're dealing with is separation anxiety. Okay. Is what's going on in the morning that causes kids to drag their feet and not put on their jacket and not put on their shoes. A lot of times, especially with younger or more sensitive children, it's separation anxiety. Okay. This is such a deep part of our human experience. Is a lot of what attachment is what I referred to earlier, is the managing of comings and goings and connections and disconnections. You know what I mean? Like, can I just find you? Can I just connect with you? Are you just there? Do I just know that I can rely on you and you're there? I mean, we all learn in grad school and things like object permanence. Like, babies don't even know you exist when you're not in the room, right? They freak out because they're like, does mommy even exist? That doesn't just go away after they're babies. There's still some form of that. Does this thread make sense the way I'm saying it? There's some form of that going on throughout our lives sometimes. Sometimes the fights we're getting into with our partners is about that, is about, I'm afraid you're not there. I'm afraid I can't find you. I'm afraid we can't connect. And if I'm not feeling good about that, I'm not resting. So a lot of times kids, even if they love, like the most common one I hear is like, my kid has a great school. They have a great teacher. They have great friends. They like it there. It's not separation anxiety. They like their school. Does that make sense how I'm setting that up? Like, but the thing is especially the younger and the more sensitive, but all kids, it's part of, like, Neufeld often talked about like a gap, and those who are listening, I'm holding my hands up like, showing a gap, right, between two hands. There's right before we're apart from each other, we're together, right after we're together, but kids tend to concentrate on the gap. Does that make sense? They don't concentrate on mommy's home and I love mommy. They concentrate on where's daddy.
Yeah.
They don't concentrate sometimes on I like my teacher and I like my friends. They concentrate on I kind of like that feeling when I'm home with mommy and daddy and I really like that, right? And so bridging is understanding that in the morning before they go out, at night, before they go to sleep, a lot of times what people don't understand, even like people will sometimes co-sleep with their kids and the kids can still have separation anxiety. Nighttime is a time that a lot of people experience separation anxiety. I'm convinced it's part of sleeplessness and insomnia issues a lot, not solely. But I think the downregulation of feeling connected and not feeling anxiety that comes up at night. So what we do is we understand that a lot of times, why is the kid resisting getting in the bath at night? Because the bath leads to the story that leads to going to bed and now I'm separated. Does that make sense? It's like the beginning of a chain of events that leads to separation. And so bridging is the understanding that kids don't have these neural pathways yet that necessarily look forward to the return, that focus on the return, that concentrate on the return. Does that language make sense too?
Yeah.
And so our job is to help them to concentrate on the return, help them focus on it. When you get home in the morning, the first thing I'm going to do is probably give you 100 kisses. And hope you're ready for it because that's what's going to happen, right? Now, I'm not just saying, good night, I'll see you in the morning, which is fine. I'm giving them a specific thing to think about. I'm giving them a specific image. And then when that image happens, it's literally building neural pathways in their brain. Does that make sense?
Yeah. That would be my daughter's nightmare.
Yeah.
100 kisses in the morning. Oh my God.
Obviously, we have to adjust this to the particular kid and how old they are.
Because I do that every morning. So they're like, no more.
I love how in Canada, I hear people talk a lot about, I'll see you in 2 sleeps, right? You don't hear that in America as much, but I hear that like with some of my Canadian friends. That's bridging. That's like, hey, you're going to go to sleep twice, but after that second time you go to sleep, I'll be there. We bridge. We say, hey, when you're at school today and you were having lunch, I was having my lunch and I was kind of feeling like I was having lunch with you. These are all ways that people usually do some of this, but most parents can do more of it, especially if they have evidence that their child is having a separation problem in their life. And usually the evidence of that is they come home. Like my kid in the first year of kindergarten, because he had 2 years of kindergarten, he was a little saint at school. That was just his disposition. He just didn't want to disrupt any, he didn't act out or whatever, but he would come home and be a little terror sometimes. Okay. And it was just an indicator that like when he was gone, I don't have a cup here, but his cup was going down a little bit. Does that metaphor make sense?
Yep.
And that even if we're great parents and our kids have a good life, their sense of separation, their sense of connectedness can actually go down. And so he was coming home with kind of an empty cup. So we did more to talk about what we would do after school. We did a little bit more matchmaking between him and the teacher, and things like this. And then what we noticed was the sense of anxiety went down, the sense of connectedness went up, and we didn't have those problems as much. So that's the way I would address, because that's what I always ask people. What are the problems happening in your home? And it's almost always the transition times, right?
Totally. Yeah.
And so I used to work in group homes with teenage boys that were severely emotionally, had severe emotional problems. They were, taken out of their homes. These kids actually had a pretty good existence, and they were supported by the community. We had an equine therapy program, horses. It was a beautiful campus. It was a good school. There was good caring people. But the times we had what we called blowouts was when they didn't know what was going to happen next. Okay. And that's an extreme example to make a point. But when they didn't know what was happening next, that's when we would have the problems because they couldn't sit with the anxiety.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Yeah. I call this focusing on hellos instead of the goodbyes. That's usually, like
everywhere in the world, people don't just say goodbye to somebody they love. Right. That doesn't exist. I lived in Japan for a little bit. One of the only words I knew before I went to Japan was sayonara, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then I got there and it turns out nobody says sayonara almost ever because sayonara is kind of like a final thing.
And now, yeah.
It's goodbye, done. They say mata ne or ja mata, which is like, okay, later. Until, au revoir, until I return, auf Wiedersehen, until I return, hasta mañana, I'll see you tomorrow. That's bridging language. And we're supposed to use bridging language. It used to be God be with you until I return or Godspeed and it turned into goodbye, and that's not bridging. So I would say one of the best foundational phase 1 things people can do is if you see evidence that your kid is really anxious before something or coming home or after it being in a bad place, that's usually an indicator that they're having some bridging issues. They're having some separation anxiety issues, and just work on kind of these things that we're talking about and you'll see it makes a difference.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. There's so much information in here. I will have all your information in the show notes for listeners, but for those listening right now, where's the very best place for them to reach you?
Oh, just go to our website, transformativeparenting.com. We recently redid it for the first time in years. I kind of put one together myself that was barely a website, and I just didn't concentrate on it. But we recently redid it. I think it has links to all our socials. I'm really proud of the YouTube channel, just because I started it actually when I was in Japan. So you'll see a very Japanese looking background. It's not green screen. That was my living room in Osaka. But yeah, I'm proud of that because there's a lot of really some of the most commonly asked questions there. The first video was on consequences, and I think Columbo was in the original cut, and my editor, who's awesome, lives in Bangladesh, Ray, he put in some scenes from Columbo in the consequences one, and we cut it out for time. But part of me wants to go back and put Columbo back in. So I would just say we have some socials. We have a Facebook thing, and YouTube is a good resource.
Great. Amazing. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.